Mark was in the hospital, and Clara, being his attending physician, didn't think twice about canceling our trip. His surgery had been a complex one, and she explained that any post-operative complications could be genuinely life-threatening. The vacation could wait. Ever since Mark had re-entered our lives as Clara's patient, I had been collecting these little moments of disappointment one by one. I couldn't blame Clara for her dedication as a doctor. It was one of the things I admired about her. Nor could I reasonably ignore the fact that Mark was her first love from college. So, in the end, I boarded the flight to Semporna by myself. I had decided to let it go, and to let Clara go. I had started putting together the plans for this Semporna vacation months in advance. I had researched everything from the seasonal weather patterns to the best hotels, from the most picturesque photo locations to the little-known local spots. I had compiled all my findings into a 15-page presentation, sourced from hundreds of social media posts and travel blogs. I just couldn't bring myself to let all of that planning and anticipation go to waste. That was why, when Clara broke the news to me that she couldn't make it, I couldn't stop myself from arguing with her. "Mark's back in the hospital," she had said. "He told me he's still not feeling right, and I can't just leave him at a time like this." Mark, again. Her ex-boyfriend from university. 3 months ago, Mark had discovered a serious heart condition and had specifically flown back to our city to be treated by Clara. From that day forward, Clara had been living on a knife's edge. The night she received his diagnostic reports, she spent the entire night in her study, poring over medical journals. She even contacted her old mentor, who was semi-retired, to arrange a multidisciplinary consultation. Clara leveraged every connection she had and poured all of her energy into ensuring Mark's surgery would be a success. She had even been the one to perform the operation herself. It made me think that Clara wasn't just a great doctor. She was probably the most exemplary ex-girlfriend in the country. Even after the surgery was declared a success, Clara's anxiety didn't fade. She had trouble sleeping, and on many nights, I would find her smoking by herself on the balcony. In the faint moonlight, the small orange glow of the cigarette would flicker between her fingers. Clara was always incredibly disciplined and hardly ever smoked. I remember standing behind her in my thin pajamas for a long time one night, and she never even noticed I was there. After every single one of Mark's post-surgery checkups, she would personally follow up to confirm every detail. He needed to eat on time, consume plenty of vegetables, exercise in moderation, and avoid staying up late. I saw the text messages she sent him, meticulously detailed and tireless. A single phone call from Mark was enough to make her drop everything and leave. That evening was her birthday, and I had spent more than 3 hours preparing a special dinner, ending up with several blisters on my hand from splattering hot oil. A few days later, when the blisters had scabbed over, she noticed them and applied some ointment for me. Her tone was filled with a kind of gentle resignation. "Leo, you really don't have to go to all this trouble," she said. "Besides, those dishes with high fat and high sodium aren't very healthy." All of this pent-up frustration finally came to a head. "Wasn't his surgery 3 months ago?" I asked, my voice dripping with a sarcasm I couldn't contain. "What's wrong now? Is Mark sick again?" Clara rubbed her temples, and I could see the tiny red veins in her eyes. "Leo, do you have to be so callous? Heart surgery is incredibly complex, and the potential for post-operative complications is severe. This isn't some minor issue. A vacation can be taken any time. Do you really need to be in competition with a patient?" I let out a laugh of disbelief. "When is any time supposed to be? Clara, you've been working for years, and I can count the number of leaves you've taken on one hand. I always accommodate your demanding schedule, planning everything around your limited free time, and interruptions are just a normal part of our life. The farthest we've ever managed to travel is to the city next door. This 5-day break had been a special grant from her senior professor, specifically because our wedding was approaching. She knew perfectly well how much I had been looking forward to this trip. Now, she just looked at me with an expression of pure exhaustion, her gaze colder than a winter wind. "Stop it, Leo. I'm really tired." My eyes started to burn, and I dug my fingernails into my palms, feeling a fire in my chest that made my whole body ache. "Clara, I hope you're this attentive to every single one of your patients." It was late March, and the air still had a chill to it. Clara didn't follow me when I walked out. Sucking in the cold air as I walked along the river, I pulled my coat tighter around myself. I'm not a terrible person. I didn't want to say harsh things to someone who was sick. I was genuinely anxious for Mark when his health issue first appeared. I knew that Clara was the best thoracic surgeon in the city, and with her performing the surgery, his chances were significantly better. It made perfect sense for Mark to choose her. Nothing is more important than life itself. So, during that stressful period of consultations and planning, I often brought meals to the hospital for Clara whenever I had the chance. She wasn't a picky eater, but her work often caused her to miss mealtimes, leaving her with nothing but a dry bun from the hospital cafeteria. I just wanted to make sure she had a proper meal, no matter what time it was. When did we first start arguing about Mark, anyway? I think it was when I noticed that she was still in frequent contact with him long after the surgery was over. I saw the messages on her phone, reminding Mark to eat his meals, to avoid strenuous exercise, and not to stay up late. "Clara, are you taking care of a patient, or are you taking care of your ex-boyfriend?" I had asked her. She didn't say anything, just looked at me with a calm expression. Eventually, she took me to his ward. Through the glass window in the door, I saw Mark curled up in his hospital gown. His exposed arm looked like it was nothing but skin and bones, covered in the faint bruises left by IV needles, a painful sight to see. He looked incredibly fragile, with pale lips, and he was frowning even in his sleep, as if he were a delicate piece of pottery on the verge of shattering. I fell silent. I had seen Mark before. He had once been a charming and vibrant person, striking even when standing next to someone as beautiful as Clara. Clara handed me her phone, her cool eyes revealing a deep, suppressed sadness. "Leo, I know what I'm doing. It doesn't matter who is lying in that bed. I would do my best for them. I just think he's so young, and he deserves to live a good life. The chat history is all there. You can look at it any time you want." I swallowed all of my grievances and resentment, bit by bit. "But Clara, did you really mean what you said? Mark, who was just recovering from a major illness, had a lot of medication to take. Clara, who was usually so direct and efficient, kept revising his prescription. I was surprised when I saw this. Shouldn't you doctors be experts at prescribing medication? Are that many drugs not usable?" She just offered a faint smile. "Pharmacology is a complex field." Then, one time, I went to the hospital to bring Clara a meal and ran into Mark. He pointed at his IV drip and mentioned that his caregiver wasn't around, asking if I could help him pick up his medication from the pharmacy. I agreed immediately. The old pharmacist squinted at the prescription and then looked up at me. "This young man seems to have a lot of energy. Why is he so afraid of a little bitterness when it comes to taking medicine?" He laughed. "Look at these pills. Aren't they all sugar-coated and sweet? When you're sick, you have to endure a little bitterness." He pointed to Clara's signature on the prescription form, saying she had put a great deal of thought into it. I don't remember what else the old pharmacist said. I just remember that on my way back to the ward, holding those few small boxes of pills felt like I was carrying an immense weight, something that was pressing down on my chest and making it hard to breathe. Clara is the most rational person I know. I had complained to her before that some medicine was too bitter. She would just frown at me, her stunning features looking even colder. "Leo, you're not a child." Love is a subconscious expression. So, Clara, your heart had already tilted. A light rain began to fall by the river as I walked back home. The shoes I had kicked off in my anger when I left were now placed neatly by the door. On the dining table there were 3 simple dishes and a bowl of soup. Clara was standing in the living room, backlit by the window, watching me quietly. "You're back. The food is on the table." Her tone was calm, as if I had just gone out for a casual walk. I didn't say anything. I didn't let her off the hook as I usually would, deciding to put our disagreements behind us. Looking back now, every conflict we had because of Mark, no matter how intense, ended without a resolution. In other words, all the energy and tears I had spent on this were completely pointless, all for nothing. Clara was always like a rational observer, watching me cry and slam the door, only for me to return later and process my own emotions. Then we would make up. I suddenly found the whole cycle meaningless. "Leo," she said, walking toward me, perhaps because I hadn't responded. "I have to go to the hospital later." I looked down at the floor, hearing my own voice emerge, strained and painful. "Let's break up." Clara stopped, just centimeters away from me. "Why?" "No reason." I took a deep breath and forced a bitter smile. "You said you were tired, but you never considered that I might be tired too. So let's just end it here." Clara was silent for a few minutes. In her clear eyes, there was a brief flash of confusion. And then, I stared into her eyes, searching for more emotion, anger, sadness, regret. But there was nothing else. She glanced at her watch, her voice steady. "I have a surgery at 3 and a meeting at 6. I'll be home by 9. Wait for me." I watched as she walked around me toward the entrance, changed her shoes, and left the apartment, her strides swift and purposeful as she headed to the garage. This was Clara. Even when faced with a breakup, she remained composed. No, that wasn't entirely true. At least, when she broke up with Mark, it had been a complete mess. So much so that a medical student ended up drinking herself into a stomach hemorrhage and had to be hospitalized. Her roommate couldn't help but complain to me outside the ward. "They say graduation season is breakup season. Isn't that the truth? We're medical students, double majors, so incredibly busy. He's graduating, and Clara is still pulling all-nighters in the lab helping him with his reports. And him? He claims to be sick on the weekends and needs to rest, so Clara crosses the entire city to see him, only to find him celebrating a colleague's birthday. Don't be like Mark, Jr. You won't have a good ending if you betray a true heart." Back then, not knowing all the details, I couldn't really comment on who was right or wrong between them. But I clearly remembered Clara lying pale on the hospital bed, her eyes half closed. So she did have emotions. She just never shared her highs and lows with me. Wiping my eyes, I glanced at the clock. It was 2:30. There was still plenty of time before Clara got off work at 9. I started packing my things and called a moving service. I had always refrained from buying too many things for the apartment we were renting, yet there were still so many small odds and ends. A woven rose I had bought on a whim, a set of couples' mugs with our faces printed on them. I packed them all up and threw them in the trash. By 8:30, after the moving company had taken my boxes, I saw 2 missed calls from Clara and a new message. "Leo, maybe you should calm down." I could almost picture her typing that message with a cold expression, thinking I was just playing some immature game by ignoring her calls. Without a moment's hesitation, I blocked her number. The day I moved out, a steady rain was falling. It wasn't a heavy downpour, but it was constant, enough to create a sense of discomfort and heaviness. But the next day dawned bright and clear after the rain. I took it as a good sign, a message that I had moved on from a damp, gloomy relationship and into brighter days ahead. Clara's call came the next day around noon, from a number I didn't recognize. I knew it was her as soon as I answered. "Leo, where are you?" she asked, getting straight to the point. I clutched my phone tightly. "I told you yesterday, I want to break up." "Leo, last night there was an emergency patient. I didn't get home until 1 in the morning and you had blocked me." I paused for a couple of seconds to realize she was explaining why she was only calling me now. I just responded with, "Oh." Honestly, she didn't need to go to the trouble. I knew she was incredibly busy and always had urgent tasks come up. I used to understand that and would wait patiently without any complaints. But now I didn't have to wait anymore. "I don't agree with your reason for breaking up," she continued, her voice still calm on the other end of the line. "If you're tired, you can tell me. If it's about the trip, we can reschedule. Leo, come back. Let's talk about this in person." I chuckled softly. "Reschedule? Reschedule until when? After Mark makes a complete recovery?" "Clara, that's not rescheduling. That's just me going along with your schedule." She paused, and it took her a moment before she replied softly. "It's not that." I cut her off. "Clara, you want reasons for the breakup? Let me ask you, do you love me? Do you love me more than you love Mark? If you love me, then why do I always have to take a back seat to him?" Her speech quickened, almost laced with an undeniable helplessness. "Mark is a patient. I'm a doctor. It's my duty. Leo, I can't just stand by and watch a life disappear. If you need a love that overcomes a life, I'm sorry." I burst out laughing. "Clara, you see? I asked you 3 questions, and your first instinct was to defend and explain things for Mark. Ask yourself, do you really love me? Since Mark reappeared, have you even once truly considered my feelings?" The silence stretched out over the phone line, so I kept talking. "Even though I was the one who initiated the breakup, you just want to give me some time to cool off. Clara, if your love from now on is only going to bring me disappointment and grievances, then I've thought it through. I don't want it." A long silence stood between us. I could hear her breathing getting heavier, and her once steady tone began to shake with a noticeable discord. She finally managed to force out the words, "I'm sorry, Leo." I hung up the phone. After that day, Clara didn't try to contact me again. I guess she had figured things out. Since she couldn't let go of Mark, and he was back in her life, my leaving might have even been a good thing for her. Maybe I should have left a long time ago. I started looking online for a new apartment, but I couldn't find anything I liked. Instead, I stumbled upon an advertisement for a travel agency, Semporna, off-season sale. Compared to the package I had previously booked, the same price now got me an upgraded room and several new water activities. The travel dates were just half a month earlier. I'm a freelance illustrator, so my schedule is quite flexible. There was no reason to pass up such a good deal, so I decided to change my reservations. Just like that, I was on my way. Traveling during the off-season is fantastic. Fewer crowds, beautiful scenery. On my last night there, after weeks of silence, Clara called. "Leo, I've transferred Mark to another doctor's care. I'll join you for the trip as we planned. I was wrong before. Give me another chance to make it up to you, all right?" Her voice was shrouded in a heavy fog, so low that it almost broke. Suddenly, I remembered trying snorkeling with a coach a few days earlier. The colorful fish danced through the coral reefs. Sunlight streamed down through the water, creating a shimmering, ethereal scene. It was a vast, indescribable beauty, enough to bring tears to your eyes. "But Clara, I'm already in Semporna." Her breathing stalled on the other end of the line. I explained gently, "The travel agency had a sale. My schedule is flexible, so I just changed my ticket." Actually, I had known Clara for much longer than Mark. We were high school friends. She was a year ahead of me. At the high school orientation for new students, she gave a welcome speech as an outstanding senior. She was elegant and graceful. In just a few minutes on stage, she had captured the hearts of most of the freshman boys, myself included. I was a rebellious kid back then, fearless. I pursued her for half a year, even managing to ask for her phone number, but it led nowhere. Then, during the midterm exams of my freshman year, my grades plummeted. My homeroom teacher finally called my parents. In front of all the teachers in the office, my dad scolded me, saying I was just like my mom, carrying her lowly blood. He pointed at me and sneered. "All you think about is dating? Are you that useless? Just like your mom, running after other men? Are you trying to do the same thing?" The teacher was clearly surprised and tried to step between us, but it was no use. The hallway outside was packed with students. The next day during the lunch break, I didn't feel like doing my homework, so I was dozing off at my desk when someone called my name. Clara was standing at the classroom door, framed by the light from the hallway. "Leo." I didn't move. She called out again, "Leo." With everyone in the class egging me on, I went over to her. "Leo, want to make a bet?" she asked. I looked at her, confused. She smiled. "Next month's exam. If you make it into the top 100, I'll go see that movie with you." What a joke. I was ranked over 300th. How could I jump to the top 100 in just a month? "Afraid you can't do it?" "Who says I can't?" I reflexively retorted. Her eyes sparkled with amusement as she waited for my response. I didn't know why she suddenly wanted to make this bet with me, but the next month I placed 92nd. When the results were posted, Clara kept her word. I had actually forgotten which movie I had mentioned, so I just picked one at random. It turned out to be a romance film, not really my kind of thing. Absent-mindedly, I turned my head and saw Clara's perfectly defined side profile. I quickly looked away. Luckily, she was focused on the screen and didn't notice me staring. After the movie, I suggested we hang out a bit longer. She smiled knowingly. "Another date? That'll cost you." What's that supposed to mean? "Next month's finals, top 50. "Hey, don't push it, okay? Making it into the top 100 was hard enough. How is top 50 even possible?" She started speaking slowly. "Others might find it hard, but you, Leo, you can do it." I glanced up bore, studying her. Suddenly, she pulled a pen and a small piece of paper from her pocket, scribbled down a series of numbers, and handed it to me. "Isn't this for my phone number? If you have questions, you can ask me. List them out once a week, no fewer than 5 each time, or I won't answer." I had imagined Clara's motives many times, even suspected that she might have a crush on me, too. So, on the day she finished her college entrance exams, I shyly asked her, "Clara, do you like me? Because I—" Caught off guard, she choked on her water and quickly tossed a stack of notebooks into my arms. "Study hard and make progress every day." It was a gentle refusal, but I wasn't upset. "I saw your scores from middle school and knew you won several gold medals in academic competitions in your junior year. So, Leo, starting in the second half of freshman year, you let your grades slip and made your pursuit of me very public." She stopped, looking at me as if she wanted to say more. I was stunned. That was the year my dad discovered my mom was having an affair, and they were constantly at each other's throats, busy with a tug-of-war over their failing marriage. I was at a loss, trying to gain back their affection by acting out and pushing them away. But oddly enough, after they got divorced, and I climbed back into the top 3 of my class, they suddenly started caring about me again. They even competed to see who I was closer to. If someone wants to leave, you can't make them stay. I gradually understood that no matter the circumstances, if I focused on myself, good things would come. "Leo, see you in college." The sunset in June was golden, and the evening glow crept onto the clear face of the girl in front of me. My heart raced at that moment. An indescribable feeling was welling up inside me. Clara, see you in college. I held on to that hope through the exhausting final year of high school, finally boarding the northbound train in September of the following year. But Clara, what happened to seeing each other in college? When Leo broke up with her that day, Clara was stunned for several seconds. 1,000 voices screamed in her mind, but when it was time to speak, they all fell silent. Clara checked her watch. There was still over an hour before her surgery. Some things were better left unsaid. Pre-surgery mood swings were unacceptable. It wasn't responsible to the patient or respectful to life. No matter how big the problem was, it could wait. The moment she stepped out of the operating room, Clara called Leo. There was no answer. She rushed into a meeting, and after it ended, she called again. Still no answer. A sliver of unease began to creep into Clara's mind. Was Leo really that angry this time? But Clara frowned slightly and was about to pack her things to go find Leo when a nurse rushed in, saying there was an emergency that needed her attention. So she hastily sent him a message. She regretted it almost as quickly as she had sent it. Leo was never one for giving the silent treatment, and he certainly wasn't one to throw around the idea of breaking up lightly. This was the first time he had ever brought it up. Maybe it wasn't Leo who needed to calm down. Sure enough, when Clara finally got home under the moon's glow at 1 a.m, her anxiety plummeted into a cold dread. The closet was bare, and the small collection of things on the windowsill was gone. Her throat was incredibly dry. She instinctively went to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water. On the drying rack, only the mug with her face on it remained. Hanging there, all alone. Clara's fingers trembled violently as she unlocked her phone and repeatedly tried to call Leo's number. Leo was truly determined this time. He had left, blocked her number, and didn't even give her a proper goodbye, even though she had told him to wait for her. Why? Before, Leo had waited for her countless times, often falling asleep on the couch while waiting for her to come home. Why couldn't he wait for just a few hours this time? Clara trudged to bed with heavy steps, but lay awake until dawn. At noon the next day, she finally had a free moment and borrowed a colleague's phone to call him. But the conversation didn't go well. Every question Leo asked left Clara speechless. It felt like a dull blade was slowly slicing into her heart. A nurse came by to say that a patient in room 1707 was complaining of discomfort and asked if Clara could check on them when she had a moment. Room 1707 was Mark's room. Clara massaged her temples as she headed to the ward. Mark was lying on the bed, watching a show on his tablet and laughing heartily. Clara! Mark was clearly in a good mood and eagerly passed her his tablet. You have to watch this show, it's hilarious. Where does it hurt? Clara stood still. Mark pouted. Oh, come on. Why so serious? You work so hard every day. I called you over to let you relax a bit. As for pain, my stomach aches. I have a headache sometimes. What should I do, Clara? Clara pressed her lips together as she read over Mark's current hospital reports. He was recovering well. Most of his basic markers were within the normal range. Occasionally, a few values were slightly off, but it was nothing major. Are you taking your medication? Are you watching your diet? Mark suddenly jumped off the bed, picked up the lunchbox from the table, and, using a fork, offered Clara a piece of broccoli, leaning in close. He was visibly upset. Look, it's just healthy food all day. I'm practically turning into a herbivore. Can you imagine eating this every single day? I don't care, Clara. After work, you have to take me for spicy crabs. You know I love that place. Clara subtly took 2 steps back. She felt a sudden wave of irritation wash over her. How did they break up back then? Mark wanted constant companionship, a sense of occasion, and emotional support. Tipping his head arrogantly, he had said, Clara, go live with your lab. You give me nothing. You're too busy to even say goodnight. What's the point of someone like you wasting anyone's time? A female colleague isn't just a coworker, is she? It was just a birthday dinner. And besides, who are you to accuse me? Weren't you always tangled up with your little schoolmates, too? Clara saw a figure flash in her mind. Leo. When Leo first came to the city for college, he came to see her a few times, all excited. But after he saw her with Mark, he never came back. The one time he did reach out, Mark had mocked him endlessly. At that moment, Clara had decided to let go of that relationship. She was young then, and had been genuinely invested in it. She eventually got drunk, bringing it to a sort of closure. Mark later tried to make up with her. He bought a cake and came to the medical school to see her, his words hinting at getting back together. But Clara didn't budge. Mark angrily smashed the cake on the ground. Do you think I didn't know? When you were in the hospital, that guy brought you food every day. You two were definitely hooking up, right? Fine, I'm out of here. I'm giving you your space. Clara was stunned. When she had been hospitalized for half a month, her roommate had brought her food twice, and then it was delivered punctually every day by someone else. But she had always assumed the deliveries were ordered by her roommate. Back then, Leo had just entered the workforce. Her roommate scratched her head. That guy said takeout isn't clean. He wasn't too busy during his internship, so he just made an extra meal for you every day without much trouble. Oh, he also said that since you had a boyfriend, he didn't want to cause any misunderstanding, so he asked me to deliver it. He still owes me a big meal for that. Clara suddenly recalled a late night when she was driving Leo back to his school, where the sparse starlight mixed with the tears he tried to hide. Leo had said the wind was irritating his eyes. But there hadn't been any wind that night, just scattered stars. That one tear, shed unintentionally, finally pierced through time to burn in Clara's heart at that moment. Clara, I promise, after we eat this spicy crab, I'll take my medicine regularly. Mark's words were overly forward. Clara looked at Mark's hand clutching her sleeve. His intentions weren't hard to guess. When they broke up, she was just a busy medical student. Now she was a highly respected young doctor in the city. Mark always knew how to seek advantages and avoid risks, unlike Leo, who must have seemed foolish to him. After enduring the long night, he had turned away at the first sign of light. Clara closed her eyes, bitterly self-mocking. Despite always thinking she was focused on saving lives, she had unintentionally hurt a sincere heart. When she opened her eyes again, her usual coldness and detachment were back. My report shows you're fine now. You can just book a regular checkup from today. There's no need to see me again. Mark stared in disbelief. Clara swiftly freed her sleeve from his grasp. If your stomach hurts, go to internal medicine. If your belly is in pain, get a gastroenteroscopy. No one can save you if you don't follow medical advice. Also, I'm quite busy, so please don't waste medical resources. Clara, who are you to reject me? I can choose any doctor I want. Do you know I can report you for this? Clara smiled suddenly, but there was a chilling coldness in her eyes. Is that so? Do what you want. After coming back from Semporna, I got a call from a real estate agent. Leo, the house you and Clara bought is expected to be delivered next month. We welcome you to come and inspect it. Last year, Clara and I were close to discussing marriage, and this house was meant to be our marital home. The purchase contract only had my name on it, but Clara had paid for it. I had clutched a savings book and told her that I had saved some money over the years since graduating and could contribute to our future. Clara seemed genuinely happy at that moment, a rare enough occurrence that she made a playful joke. Great, now I'm broke. It's the perfect time for someone to support me. I left Clara's number with the real estate agent. The agent hesitated. Leo, we can only do the handover based on the name on the contract. Changing it will require you to handle it at the housing bureau once you have the deed. Clara had been earning well these past few years, and this house was paid for in full. But now that we were broken up, it was better not to owe each other anything financially. I called Clara, and she answered almost immediately. After I explained the situation, there was a long silence before she spoke softly. "Leo, are you so eager to draw a line between us?" I felt a bit bewildered. She sighed softly. "I'm a bit busy right now. There's no rush for this." The real estate agent nudged me several times after that, so I just went on my own to take care of the paperwork. While I was inspecting the house, a thought crossed my mind. That money I didn't spend last year could be used now to buy a place of my own, right? Excitedly, I started looking for houses. Luck seemed to be on my side as I quickly found a small house. 2 bedrooms, a living room, a newer model with a little garden. My savings were just enough for the down payment, and I could still save some for renovations. On the day I signed the contract, I chatted a bit with the owner in my excitement. "This garden, I'm going to fill it with roses and set up a swing. Then I can sit in the sun and paint." The owner was young too, tall with striking features and a cheeky confidence. She raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like the perfect dream home. Oh, you paint? Are you an art teacher?" "Nope." Feeling good, I showed her some of my past work on my phone. Her eyes lit up. "A concept artist, huh? That's impressive." I felt a bit shy, but she was bubbling with excitement. "I'm working on a new game. Actually, selling this house is partly because of that. Is there any chance you'd be interested in working with me?" She spoke softly. "It's just that during our startup phase, the pay we can offer might not match your other big projects. But maybe you'd like to visit my studio first? Our game design is really cool." On an impulse, I agreed. After hanging out a few more times, I learned her name was Chloe. She had graduated from one of the top 2 computer science programs in the country and was now starting her own company with some like-minded friends to develop a game. The day Chloe and I sealed our partnership, she was driving me home when we bumped into an old acquaintance, Mark. He was standing a little ways off watching Chloe and me with a smirk. He was always handsome, and now, having just recovered from a serious illness, it added a certain frail beauty to his look. "Impressive, Leo," he said with a hint of a smirk. "Juggling a new flame while keeping the old one on a string. Quite the talent you've got." Chloe frowned, about to say something, but I stopped her. I met Mark's gaze, still confused about the tidal wave of hostility coming from him. But no matter the source, I wasn't about to take his crap. "If we're talking about keeping old flames on strings, who could possibly top you, Mark? The funny thing is, the only reason you can stand here at all, running your mouth, is thanks to a skilled ex who brought you back to health." Mark's face went pale. "You—" I sneered. "What's the matter? Finally got your strength back to cause trouble after your recovery? I'd suggest you head back home and not waste Clara's efforts." Mark gritted his teeth, shot me a furious look, and then turned and left. Clara's car pulled up barely 10 minutes later. She parked on the street and walked over to Chloe and me. Chloe rested her chin on her hand for a moment, as if solving a puzzle, and then exclaimed, "Oh, Leo," Clara called to me. I looked up at her. It had been a while since I'd seen her, and she had noticeably lost weight. Her once elegant and graceful demeanor now carried a hint of weariness. "Who is she?" Clara's gaze landed on Chloe beside me, her eyes full of swirling emotions that were hard to pin down. "She's my client," I said honestly. Chloe glanced over at me. Clara's expression relaxed a little. Clara reached out to touch me, but Chloe blocked her. "You're a client stepping over some boundaries, aren't you?" Clara sneered, while Chloe raised an eyebrow. "Boundaries?" says the ex-girlfriend who's clearly overstepping. Clara instantly clenched her fists. I quickly signaled for Chloe to leave. Clara offered to take me home, but I turned her down. Her lips moved slightly, and her eyes were filled with intense pain. "Leo, do we really have to be strangers now?" My heart twinged a bit, but only a bit. Whenever you're free, we can transfer the house back to your name, I said, cutting straight to the point, but she just looked as though she hadn't heard me. Leo, I messed up, she said. I'll change. I'll make loving you my priority. I'll love you seriously like you once loved me. Please, Leo, don't leave. Suddenly she hugged me tightly, her face buried in my shoulder, trembling. I gently pushed her away. Under the dim streetlight, I could see her eyes welling with tears. Leo, you spent a decade loving me. How can you just walk away? I met her eyes and spoke slowly and seriously. If someone accidentally breaks their leg, can't get immediate help, and it festers and rots from the inside, Clara, you know what that person should do, don't you? Clara's face went colorless, inch by inch. She shut her eyes in despair, and when she opened them again, they were filled with boundless sadness and helplessness. Amputate, she said. Exactly, I smiled. That's what loving you was like for me. After that night, it seemed like I finally began to truly drift away from Clara. She never sought me out again, but she also never responded about the house. Unsure of her plans, I mailed her the keys. I started spending most of my time working on Chloe's game. It was a group of young people with such sincere hearts, giving their all for a shared dream. Back when I was with Clara, she wouldn't let me stay up late to draw, but now I was totally hooked on this thrilling passion. Pulling all-nighters got me scared of myself. The day I finished the scene illustrations, Chloe forcibly shut down my computer. Hey, aren't you afraid I didn't save my work? I rolled my eyes, but she just grinned cheekily. Leo, I'm taking a break today, so you're forced to take a day off too. I hated feeling like someone was outdoing me secretly. That afternoon, I passed by a flower and bird market and decided to buy a big bag of rose seeds. I figured it was time to start working on my garden. But just as I was digging a few shovels of dirt, I got a frantic call from Chloe. Leo, your ex-wife has gone nuts! Hurry up! I rushed over. Luckily, it wasn't far, just in a nearby mall. There, I saw Chloe looking angry, leaning against a wall beside a tall, handsome guy. Clara stood not far away, her face full of cold anger. Leo, you finally came! I need you to set things right. I was just shopping normally, and your ex-wife went crazy and started pointing and yelling at me. Ugh, she covered her forehead, looking pitiful. She even tried to throw coffee at me. How am I supposed to show my face in public now? Boo-hoo! I looked closely at her face. There was no damage. She was just really pissed off. I couldn't help but laugh. Chloe kept whining, I'm going to sue her. Damn it, boo-hoo-hoo. Clara snorted. Leo, you see it now. She's dating other guys behind your back. Doesn't a woman like that deserve to be taught a lesson? I'm not, Chloe started to explain, but was cut off by Clara. Not what? You pick up and drop off Leo every day, and then you go on dates with other guys. Are you saying you're not playing with his feelings? How do you know I pick up and drop off Leo every day? Chloe asked, confused. I looked at Clara, too. Clara turned her head away, silent. Chloe gritted her teeth and pulled the guy next to her over. This is my cousin, Ethan, the kind related by blood. I just asked him to help me pick out a gift. Leo, don't let your ex ruin things between us. I couldn't help but laugh. I had to go into the mall and buy some iodine and alcohol, then asked Chloe's cousin Ethan to help calm her down. Oh no, I mean help her feel better. When I handed the medicine to Clara, she didn't take it. I sighed, turned to leave, and she hurriedly grabbed me. Leo, I didn't mean to follow you. Don't be mad. I'm about to leave the city, so I just wanted to see you a few more times. She noticed my surprised look and smiled while explaining. The Western regions lack medical resources, and our city happens to have a matching aid program. I volunteered. I'm planning to move there for about 3 to 5 years. Leo, you don't have to worry about me. I'll take care of myself. I thought about it for a long time. Nowhere has you, so I might as well go far away and do something genuinely meaningful. I felt a mix of emotions. In the end, I just said, take care. On the eve of Chloe's game launch, I received a postcard mailed from the Northwest. It showed an endless expanse of yellow sand dunes with Crescent Moon Spring nestled within. Chloe raised an eyebrow and sighed, her slender fingers brushing over the image on the postcard. Us gamers, we know there are two types of skills that are the hardest to dodge. One has a super long wind-up, and the other launches instantly. Looks like your ex-wife had a really long-winded romance. And who knows how many years it'll take before she can move on from someone's instant departure. I rolled my eyes at her, grabbed the postcard, and casually slipped it into a book. I've known for a while now. Anyone looks beautiful when they're standing under a cherry blossom tree. My love, it's passionate, no matter who it's for. It wasn't that she was so great, it was that I was. Behind me, Chloe kept rattling on. Leo, stop getting so worked up. By the way, our game is about to launch. When are you going to take me to visit your rose garden?